you very much, Slavek and Maciek, for that demonstration. And I listened in this morning. My Polish isn't so good, so I'm going to speak in English. But good morning to everybody, and thank you for participating today. What I was hoping to do was simply show you a little bit about the story behind where we are today, and also to thank 4Results for their in support of intent-based leadership and congratulate them on being our latest global partner. So I'm going to just tell a little bit of the story. Now I know Slavek and Maciek did that, so maybe they did it better than me, but I have some pictures. So here we are, what it's like to be on a submarine. If you visit a submarine, you're going to get a sense of it's very crowded. And we put 135 people on a submarine, so it's very crowded. Now, these are the beds on the submarine. We only have 120 beds, which means that there's not even enough beds. So sometimes two people share one bed, but not at the same time. One person's on duty, the other person's in bed, then they get on, and then they relieve them. And when you get in the bed, it's still warm. It's hot from the body heat of the person before you. Now, you're also here in this torpedo room. We actually put beds in the torpedo room, which is a terrible place to sleep. Also, this is what your bunks look like. The bunks, again, very small, very crowded. This is all the private space that you have. This is the room we call the wardroom. This is where the officers eat. This is where we have meetings. This is where we plan our tactics. And when we sit down to eat, we sit in exact order of rank. Exact order, not close order, but exact order of rank. Very hierarchical. Now, because space is very small, we also use the wardroom as an operating room. We don't have a doctor, but we have a paramedic, a special EMT person, and they have this big book, and it tells them how to do all these procedures. So if you go and you say, oh, my belly hurts, they'll poke you, they say, lie down, and they can do surgery on you. Now, when I was trained as a naval officer, the book they gave me was this book, and it says, leadership can be defined as directing the thoughts, plans, and actions of others so as to obtain and command their obedience, confidence, respect, and loyal cooperation. And I try to have Google translate this into Polish for me. This is the definition, which is about this quadrant of leadership. It's about telling people what to do, and it assumes that the leader knows all the answers. The leader's never wrong. The leader knows more than everybody else. The problem is it's a very fragile place to be, because when the leader is wrong, then everybody goes down the hole, and it doesn't get people thinking and excited. But that's the way I was trained. So imagine a situation like this. We're bringing a special forces team. In the United States, we call it a SEAL team. So these are elite special forces soldiers, and they come on a helicopter, and we put a rope down. Now this is me up here, and I'm in charge. So think about this. This happens very quickly. There's so much noise, no one can hear. And if this sailor has a problem, let's say this person falls off the side, or the helicopter goes off to one side, does he keep holding on to it? Does he let go? He has to use his head. But if he's gonna say, oh, Captain, tell me what to do. Oh, no, I'll tell him what to do. That's not gonna work. It's too fast, can't hear me. And this is my view. I can't even see what's happening. And this is what all leaders are dealing with. Because you can maybe see what people are doing with their hands, but you can't see what's going on in here or in here. And so we have to create teams that don't need to be told what to do. They think, they have passion without being told what to do. So my story was, I had this model of leadership I was going to tell people what to do. I was very comfortable, and I was going to be the captain of one submarine, this submarine. And you can see the submarine has these, we call these sailplanes, these fins. And at the very last minute, there was another submarine, the worst performing submarine. The submarine we all laughed at, and we said, oh, they're so bad. That was the USS Santa Fe, and the captain on the Santa Fe quit. And now there was no captain. So the Navy said, Marquet, you don't go to Olympia, you go to Santa Fe. And I was like, no, because the problem wasn't bad morale and bad performance. In a situation where I thought I knew all the answers, I could get through that. I would just tell them what to do because I was the smartest person. But that didn't work because look, the Santa Fe has a smooth sail and the Olympia has this. So the Santa Fe was a different kind of submarine, a very new submarine. And so at my ceremony, big ceremony, my parents came out to Hawaii, very music, very formal. It really wasn't like this because inside my head was like this because I didn't know the submarine, but I still was living in this quadrant. I wanted to live in this quadrant here, but I ended up in this quadrant down here. Now you say, now that's not too smart. I agree. But the problem is it's emotional. We feel like that's what we need to do when we're leaders. We need to earn our pay by telling people what to do. And as Slavik and Marcek said, we ran an exercise where we were going to shut down the reactor. And this sailor has a knob in front of him that he turns to control the speed. And all the older submarines, when you went to the electric motor, which was backup, 2 speeds. But on Santa Fe, 1 speed. But I thought 2 speeds. I didn't know. And I said to the officer, hey, let's go to 2nd gear. And the officer ordered it. And the sailor, again, was not like, he was like, what? There's no 2nd gear. And that was very embarrassing because I was supposed to know all the answers. And I got my team together and I said, hey, we have this big problem. You think I'm going to keep telling you what to do. And you're trained to do what you're told. We need you guys to think. So I'm going to never tell you what to do. And I ended up over here for a short period of time. And this was like nervous. But eventually I learned the submarine. And I might have gone back to here. So, oh, I know it. Now I can tell people what to do. But I'd seen the power of me being quiet and inviting the team to tell me what they thought. And so I tried to stay here. Now, sometimes I might have to tell people what to do, but I always try to stay over here. The problem over and over again was me, because in my head, it felt like I was doing the wrong thing. When people came up to me and said, Captain, what should we do here? And I'd say, well, what do you think? What would you do? If I weren't here, what would you do? And we use this tool called the ladder of leadership. And we just used words. It felt wrong. And that's why we made the dive, is because the problem isn't what you know. We can teach leadership all day long. You can read books. That's not going to help you. It's the feeling of, okay, I'm in a situation, I don't know all the answers. I can't see everything that everybody sees. How do we work together as a team? And with the dive, it hits you right in the belly because you feel it, because you're immersed inside the virtual reality. We think that for organizations to survive today and thrive, they need to get everybody thinking, not just a few people at the top. We call this push the authority for making decisions down to the people who have the information. Another way that we say it is let the people doing the work, we call them the doers, let the doers be the deciders. In the industrial age model, there are two kinds of people. They're the doers, all these people, and then there's the decider, this person over here. This is a factory in the United States before World War II. Very common industrial age picture. Thinker, doer, leader, follower, management, worker. And so we split people into two different groups. The problem is humans are not very good at this kind of work. Our minds wander, we get bored, it's not fulfilling, we don't like it. Our grandparents did it because they had to put food on the table, but they didn't necessarily like it. They weren't being fulfilled by this work. Now, fortunately, many of us don't have to work like this anymore. But because work was like this, and we had to get humans to do this, we had to create a propaganda system to get all the creativity out of you. And this was called the education system. And so we sent you to school for 12 years to crush all the creativity out of you so that you could go in this environment and you would be productive. Or, you know, maybe this girl here. I've got a couple final stories, and then I'll open it up, and Maciek and I will discuss any ideas, stories, or questions that you have. Here we are fighting a fire. And you can see we have the special equipment, the fire hose. And when we start, we would do a practice run. We'd start a stopwatch, and we would see how long it took for the team to arrive. And when we started, the team took 3, 4, 5 minutes. That's too long. 2 minutes is supposed to be. And we get together and we say, well, why, what happened? And I heard this word, they. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. It was always they. Now on a submarine, remember the bunks. The bunks are right, you're right next to the person. So this person here said they, this person here. We're all the same people. And I got angry and I said, no, they on Santa Fe, which rhymed. So people believed it. And you had to say the word we. And so we would say, we ordered the wrong part. We didn't prepare. We didn't do this. And now it became we, and a very interesting thing happened. Our brains changed as a result of saying we over and over again. Now, on a submarine, you have different ranks, and you have different departments, just like in a company. And so we would say, oh, they in engineering, or they in operations, or they the officers, or they the chiefs. So there were lots of different theys. But when we just started saying we, it felt like we, but the words came first. So we took that idea and I said, could we understand just from the words that teams use, whether this is a resilient, agile, and adaptive team or a rigid command and control team? And it turns out that you can tell. And that's what's in this new book, Leadership as Language. And we studied a number of transcripts, actual language, not made up movie scripts, but what people really said in high stress environments. Now this ship left the coast of Florida in 2015, and it was going to sail from Florida to Puerto Rico. Now these are the Bahama Islands. This is the Atlantic Ocean out here. There's Cuba, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Florida. Now out here, this is where the hurricanes form. The hurricanes come and they come this way. And on this day, so this was only 5 years ago, when the ship left, it looked like this, because the strongest hurricane in 100 years was forming in the Atlantic Ocean. Now the crew had an opportunity. So there's big waves, big wind out here. Now these islands are a natural barrier that protect the ships from the waves. So you can go this way, but you can see it's a little bit longer. So it takes longer and you burn a little bit more gas. So the ship had two opportunities to go this safe path, up here at the top and right here. Final chance. And we can listen to the officers and the captain talking about whether they should turn. Now, by this point, the ship is rocking and there's lightning and it's in the middle of the night. And they know, they got the weather reports. They know there's a hurricane. It's not like they didn't know, but they were just so stuck in the old way of doing business. And there were patterns in the language that they did not make this turn. They kept going and the ship sunk. The hurricane sank the ship. All 33 people died and it was a tragedy. But since we recovered the black box, we have 500 pages of what they said to each other and we can learn from it. And I'm just going to show this briefly, but what we learn is that the language that they use is basically a set of plays that mirror the industrial age workforce. It was exactly like this picture that I showed you here. It's as if this was the structure. And so the point is, even if you want a workplace where people are participating, often the words that we say take us back here because that's when these words were, that's when we came up with these words. And what you want to do is have what we call the new playbook. And in the industrial age, it always was about the clock. That's why in English, we have the word like clockwork. And we would punch in, we would clock in and clock out because the clock ruled everything. But it's very hard to do good thinking when you have the pressure, when you got tick, 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 tick. Now think, that's hard. So you have to relieve the pressure. So what leaders want to do is control the clock. And these are the rest of the plays. So start gearing up your questions. I invite you, we have a YouTube channel called Leadership Nudges. I'll type it into the chat here. And we have little 1-minute videos where I talk about these different concepts. I invite you to subscribe there or get your teams to subscribe. And at that point, let me be quiet. And Maciek, I guess you and I are gonna.
Yes. Yes,
right.
David. Well, thank you. First of all, you surprised me one more time. I didn't share the slide with me, but you already presented with no tell, so it was nice surprise. Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah.
You were doing on site. Okay, David, we have some questions. If you allow me, let me just start the questions from Małgorzata. What was the biggest challenge on intent-based leadership?
The biggest challenge was for me. So someone comes up to me, I'm the captain. The engineer comes up to me. The engineer says, hey, captain, I have this problem. What should I do? Now, all my training is if I think I know the answer, oh, shut down the pump. It's a problem with the bearings. We need to replace the bearings on the pump, shut down the pump, replace the bearings on the pump. I want to say that because then we're not wasting time. We're back in work. But that's not creating a team that's thinking. So I would have to say, what do you think? What would you do? What do you think the problem is? If you were the captain, if you were me, what would you want me to tell you to do? Oh, you should tell me to replace the bearings. Okay, why don't you replace the bearings? Okay, well, next time when you come, just skip that and just tell me, hey, I intend to replace the bearing. Okay, now I get to ask questions, but the problem is always me. So here's the thing you can do to practice. Are you guys shut down from COVID or can you go to restaurants still?
Well, we can, but it's tough.
Not a good idea. Okay, so when I would go to restaurants, when I would try and get the server, the waiter, or the waitress to pick my meal for me. And so you have to give up control to that person over what you're going to eat, but you also need to make it safe for them to make the decision for you. So at home, if you're at home, give up a decision to somebody else, something that's happening at home. So it could be, what book are you going to read next? So I ask my wife, hey, you pick a book for me. Now that might make you nervous or scared, but you can provide clarity, or most likely, like my wife knows the kind of books that I want, but she probably will also want to test and give me something a little bit different that she thinks might be good for me. I don't know, but I trust that she wants the best for me. So I'm going to read what she suggests, what movie to watch, who's driving the car, how folding the laundry, stacking, loading, if you have a dishwasher, loading the dishwasher, how you do the dishes. I don't know about you, but find something that you can give control up, and you will feel it in your gut, what I felt.
So David, you're saying that you're extending intent-based leadership not only in the work, but also on a much larger area. Yeah,
I tell you, it helped me a lot. It's like with my kids as they were growing up, because when they're little, you have to tell them what to do. They don't know what a car accident is. You have to tell them, put on your seatbelt. Well, why? Because I told you. No, because you can get hurt. And if you're not wearing your seatbelt, you'll be hurt. Okay. And then eventually when they leave, they have to do it themselves. They have to know how to do it themselves. But yeah.
David, there is another question from Rafał. Please elaborate more a little bit on the ladder of leadership, just giving some more lights on these different steps.
Yeah. So the idea is, there's a couple ways to think about this. We're moving from low vulnerability to high vulnerability. We're moving from low ownership to high ownership. We're moving from low engagement to high engagement, and low levels of thinking to high levels of thinking. So it starts with description. So when someone comes to you and says, tell me what to do, the idea is always go one more. You invite them to go one up. So what do you see? Well, here's what I see. Observation, description, feel safe. Okay, what do you think? So now what do you see? It's pretty certain. I just look around and say, well, here's what I see. This is what's going on. This is how the client reacted. This is the number of lines of code in the software. This is how long it took the team. It's just description. Okay, well, I think the team has too much. We're trying to put too many features into the product. Okay, so now higher level thinking, well, what should we do? I think we should not do this last feature and ship the product. We'll do it in the next release. Okay, so now it's getting scary because I can be wrong. And so, but we don't jump up to the top. The idea is just slow, gradual. And for us, it was just about the words that we said. And on the submarine, I couldn't control the deadlines, the schedule, the courses, I couldn't, who I got. I had no control over my team, what positions they were in, but we practiced all the time, just every day, a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher.
David, there is interesting questions from Andrzej. The question is about the book of Mr. Abrashov, It's Your Ship. I understand there is some questions about some analogies, some similarities. So what would you say about it?
Well, he was another naval officer. Yeah, so you can read that book too. You have to make your own decision about what's different, but he was also a naval officer, and he was the captain of a destroyer, and he wrote a book also.
Okay. There is a question from Łukasz. What is the best way for enabling intent-based leadership style in organization?
So I think it's easiest if it starts at the top. You can do it from the middle, but it's harder. And I think for a transformation, when we talk to companies, you have to remember this is a choice that people have. So we don't say you have to act this way. We say, let's run an experiment. We've heard about this idea. Let's try it. Let's all try it. Now, my job as the leader is I'm going to try not to tell you what to do. I'm going to try to my job is to invite you up the ladder. And your job is when you get the opportunity to say what you think, you say what you think. You don't say what you think I want you to say. You say what you really believe. You don't hide. And then we shook hands. And so what happens then is people say, okay, well, I don't know about this, but I'm willing to try it for 6 months and we'll see. And then now we're learning because I'm noticing how the team's responding. And as a leader, you want to try and resist telling people what to do. So in general, I always try to say, how far over here can I move? Now it's not black and white. So, and that's why the ladder is. So I wouldn't say, no, you tell me. What I would say is, well, what do you see? What do you think? What would you do if you were me? And gradually move up in that sequence. But it all starts with you not, that is the hardest thing, especially when you know the answer and especially when there's time pressure, because then you're like, but what happens is you never, if you just keep being the answer person, you're always the answer person. I mean, you know this from your time as CEO.
Yes, absolutely. This is probably the most difficult because you know, and you could even save the time. The issue is you're not developing your team.
Yes. And then you're always like that. And you can never turn your phone off. You never go on the weekend. You never go on holiday.
So we talk about life balance. David, I think the last question is coming from Magda. I think it's referring to what we were talking now. How do you keep the right balance between delegating authority and staying away from consensus-based, endless debate on the environment? That's the...
Yeah. So I'll say something bold here. I do not think groups make decisions. There's no such thing as group decision-making. Individuals make decisions. And if you want to stop an organization from doing anything, force the group to make a decision. What will happen is the loudest person will start talking and everyone else will just give up and say, okay, sure, we'll do it that way. Groups are not good at making decisions. Individuals make decisions based on everything that the group knows and everything that the group sees. So I think you want clear decision-making. So for example, the decision to start the reactor, the decision to launch a product, how many vaccines should we order? Who owns that decision? Well, I could say the CEO owns the decision, but maybe I put it down to the COO, the head of operations. And now, so the COO may own the decision, but it's his or her responsibility to invite everybody to participate in the decision. Hey, what do you know that I don't know? How do you see it? Oh, you guys over in production, can you make this many? Oh, you guys who are in the market, what do you know? Oh, our doctors network, what are you seeing in terms of the trends this year? Let's make some projections. We know we're going to be wrong, but we're going to be close, hopefully. And then with intent-based leadership, the COO would then say, hey, everybody, I want everyone, we intend to make, I can't remember the number, Magic, 90 million vaccines.
90,000.
90,000. And I thought the number was supposed to be 9,000. Okay. So we're going to spend a lot of money making vaccine. If we don't sell them, that's going to be really bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now everyone has a chance to speak up, but it's clear. And so I think You want clear ownership of decisions, because we want speed of execution and bold decision making in business. But we want to use the whole group. So in operations, so the next decision may have to do with something that the marketing team is doing. Well, they go and they ask operations and production, hey, we're going to go, we're going to start running some ads for this new medicine. When will it be ready? So they need, so now it's their turn to ask questions. So what happens is we all end up communicating by saying what we intend to do. But the brilliant thing is no one's waiting on permission. And this means the organization moving forward.
David, that was really great. You could be you'll be hosted by us live webinar. I remind you that there was actually second time when you had the chance to talk to the Polish audience, but the first was in end of January, when it was the end of normal world, and we were gathering in a big conference room over 120 people. Could you imagine we didn't have a mask? But anyway, I hope we will come back. So I want to say,
yeah, I'd love to come to Warsaw and see you guys.
Yes, so this is our wish and our hope that we can get together, having you in Poland live, not live online, but live. So one more time, thank you very, very much, and all the best for you.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. And like I said, you can feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or whatever. Let me know how it goes. Let me know your stories. And also congratulations to 4Results for being our latest global partner. And 4Results is our only partner in all of Eastern Europe. So thank you guys for that.